Still no Braverman, no Brown, no Turi. Hold on to your hats again. I think I solved the puzzle for Haiti. Eric Braverman set up this IHRC, which is the funding mechanism that USAID went through to fund Haiti after the earthquake in January of 2010. He later went to the Clinton Foundation after he left being a consultant at McKinsey, and then went to the press in 2015, in March, saying, follow the money. And I started this series really following oil and arms, which led me to a lot of things in Syria and Libya, which you can see the earlier versions. But this, I've recently started going down through the USAID missing $7 billion in Haiti. And that's taken me into this world of Haiti. So if you haven't seen the story before, this is Monica Peterson. She disappeared. She was an investigator in human trafficking. She was looking at these sex shops, these sweatshops that then kind of turned into sex shops. And she was looking at these cell phone providers that provide these microloans, but they're usurious rates at like 195%, which forces these women into prostitution and having their kids work all day, forcing their kids into prostitution, sometimes selling their kids to child traffickers, sometimes also giving a kidney to pay interest, like was done in India with this guy, Yunus. So the same person who set up the microfinancing in India is working with Carlos Slim to set up, and Dennis O'Brien of Digicel to set up the microfinancing in Haiti. It gets worse than just kidneys. So anyway, Monica Peterson, I'll show you her words. She did a thesis of about 100 pages, which I got a little bit of a blurb of. But here's what she's saying to her friend. Here's what I found out. There's USAID constructed this mine out here in Mombasa, a gold mine. She says it's not far over here to Caracol Park, where there was an industrial park that was built. This is just simple connect the dots. I talked, well, over here at Labadie is a place for cruise ships, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. And over here on the way to Caracol, this is Port Haitian. These two maps should be together. There's a university here called University of Roi Henri Christophe, the King Henry Christophe, okay, which may have been the first king of Haiti, I'm not sure. But she says there's a real significance to this scandal for me, you know, Bella, contemporary slavery and trafficking. I can't say to what extent, but there's human trafficking happening here through Clinton's Caracol, which is here. So that's in her words. That was about a year ago. So she did a lot of investigation up until November, and then she supposedly died of suicide by hanging, which her parents dispute. So that leaves us to me talking with Azili Danto yesterday on the phone for about an hour, and she's the leading human rights advocate for Haiti. She was born in Haiti, but then came to the United States and trained as a lawyer. So she's very adept and speaks Creole, French, English very well. She laughed at my French. No, she said I spoke French fine. But she just outlined for me some of the, I said, I want to follow the money. I want to follow the USAID money because if you saw my previous slides all the way through this, USAID can't really fund unless they have a funding mechanism like a World Bank or something to write a proposal. This is Eric Braverman writing these proposals. Well, first I'll cover this. If you go back to the Clintons in Arkansas, what they did is they had a bank like a fund like the World Bank, where they did Iran-Contra, drugs for arms trafficking. And what would happen is they would take that money that would come in, it was $100 million a month, and it would fill up at $100 million, and at the end of the month, they would clear the account to zero. And that you don't, there's a loophole in the donation laws that if there's less than zero, or less than $5,000 in an account, you don't have to report on it. So they'd clear it right at the end before the reporting period to zero. Well, you're going to find in Haiti they do the same thing, only it's not a month, it's in a day. So it's going to go up to 100 million in a day. They're going to clear it 100 million in a day, clear it 100 million in a day. And I believe they clear all the funds for that first $6 billion in 2 months. The IHRC funding mechanism shuts down after this hospital gets built that I'll talk about in the next slide. So they needed to keep this open for USAID money to build the roads in here, to build the water pipeline, the electrical grid, the industrial park, the university, the port for the Royal Caribbean, probably the hotel, etc. And then when that was done, they shut the IHRC down. Just like Clinton Global Initiative shut down now. Once the funding mechanism serves its purpose, you shut it down. So anyway, here's kind of, again, Labadie to port to Cap Haitien, which is Cape Haiti here, which is only about 21 miles. And then the distance from Cap Haitien to Caracol is, well, I don't have it here, but I think it's about 50 kilometers, maybe less. Okay? So in talking with Azili yesterday, oh, by the way, I don't take money on this channel, and I don't advertise. But I do think if you want to help Haiti, Azili Danto is the real deal in Haiti. So please, if you want to give money to anybody, give it either to Azili Danto here if you want to help Haiti, or give it to Judicial Watch if you want to help the investigation. But she outlined for me, the cruise line that went in up here near the Citadel, which is kind of a tourist thing if you ever go to Haiti. It's near Sans Souci, which means carefree, dans français. So anyway, there's a gold mine here, which I think is a fraud. You could see on that map on the picture before, it looks like just a graveyard more than anything. And then the World Bank, as I mentioned in the previous slide, put in this electrical grid, put in these roads, put in this 1,000 beds near this industrial park in Caracol. That's the area I was talking about. Now, what's interesting is all that development, plus the university, and this is the port structure called Port Lafito, real close. So there's a huge concentration in northern Haiti with all this USAID money. But the epicenter of the earthquake, you can see down here, was this dark area, was in Port-au-Prince. This is also the most populated area, 4 or 5 million people or so. The only thing that really went in down there was this 5-star hotel, Digicel Hotel. This is right here. This is where Dennis O'Brien's company, he's famous for these micro loan sharking loans on his cell phones, his Digicel phones. And many people say all you see in there is not visitors, tourists, but it's Digicel people. So that's the first thing. And I thought I'd put in who the Treasury Secretary was during this USAID funds through the Treasury Department, and that was Timothy Geithner. And the president of the World Bank was Bob Zoellick. Bob Zoellick goes all the way back to 1981 with Bill Clinton sending rice from Arkansas to Haiti. That's how long that relationship's been going. So again, this is the repeating theme with the Clintons. It's the same cast of characters. Well, with Bill anyway. They go back always 30 years. So, and then finally, I'll say that they built this hospital here in record time at Mirabalais. They built it in 18 months. They opened up IHRC to get the money through World Bank, $100 million a day, I'm guessing, and then, and I don't know how many days that works out to, 3 months, 4 months. And then as soon as this hospital is built, they are going to shut this down. Oh, the university is going to be built here in 2012. So somewhere in between there. Plus, they dig a deep water port here in Port Liberté. I'm talking a huge port for an oil container and container ships and oil transshipment points, as well as what they call a Panamax port, which is where you can have ships large enough to go through the canal. So this is a trade-free zone, the Panama Canal. This is a trade-free zone. So this is where I said they're drilling oil up here. They wouldn't be putting in oil tanker ships ports and container ship ports if they weren't. So anyway, you're gonna see near the Citadel over here is gonna be more of a tourist area, Labadie, where the cruise ships are, and I'll focus in on that in a second. So now I'm going to get to the peacekeepers. The UN sends 5,000 peacekeepers, keepers, sorry about that, to near Mirabalais, around the hospital, which is funny because this is the safest place and it's one of the most remote places, 25 miles away from Port-au-Prince. Well, why? You don't understand why all the peacekeepers out here where there's really nobody to fight each other. Well, the reason is you're going to find that they built this hospital right here. And with all the modern I mean, all the best equipment. I watched all the videos, great equipment. And they have a helipad on the hospital. And you wonder, well, why do they have a helipad? Well, could get to remote regions. I get that. But I think it's a different situation. And the reason why I say this is because in Syria right now, they're harvesting organs. And I just read a whole bunch of articles about the harvesting that's going on with in Turkey across the border when they're taking these victims across the border and harvesting their organs. So, and I'm not talking about just the kidneys. I'm talking about the heart, and pancreas, and not pancreas, but liver and the transferable organs. So here's what I believe. The first victim of Haiti had no cholera in its history ever, never. And then recently after the earthquake, all of a sudden cholera, and there's been about 2,000 victims, right? Well, the first victim is right here by the UN peacekeepers in Mirabale. And I'm going to say right now that cholera is a cover for organ harvesting. And what's happening is they're flying either the helicopter up to this airport at Cape Haitien, flying it up here, or they're taking the plane up there and then they're driving it over to the university hospital. There's a medical school up there, and the people who are coming in on these tour boats are getting a tour of the hospital over there. It's the showcase. It's the showroom. So this is the back of the garage. Sorry to put in terms like this. This is the junkyard where we're getting the parts, and then we're putting the junk, flying it up to the parts depot up here, and then in the showroom we're showing how advanced the stuff is. Now the other thing is, I think they're also renting this hospital space out to people and trying to get them to stay here and have, let's say, a doctor who has 10 heart transplants lined up to bring in there. And the peacekeepers go get the kids, just like the white helmets are doing in Syria, just like the blue helmets did in Kosovo. They're probably going to have orange helmets or some other kind of helmets here. But that's what these peacekeepers have done time and time and time again. So I'm just following patterns. Like I say, it's 80% fact and about 20% working theory. But here's where the population is. Here's where all the fouled water was. Here's the people without electricity and so forth. These folks are pretty much self-sufficient out here. They're not even close to each other. There's not a water source that could be contaminated. Now, they say it's the UN peacekeepers that contaminated the water. 5,000 people living, drinking bottled water. So I don't know. Anyway, it just seems the cholera cover seems very odd. So if I was in Haiti, I would be looking in this area or this is only a 25-mile drive, so, they could be taken from anywhere in Haiti. Okay, so why do I say that, this sort of thing can happen? Well, we know Jeff Epstein has a DynCorp helicopter. I believe you're going to see a DynCorp helicopter going from that Mirabale hospital to Hôpital Henri. Again, 40 kids in the one case in Florida, 102 Jane Does in the other case. So we know that sexploitation is not off the table. We know that sarin gas attacks are not off the table. We know that kidney transplants for micro loan sharking is not off the table. So, and we know that gang rape by police forces is not off the table for DynCorp. Okay, so at what point? Here's the guy, Chris Hill, who oversaw the whole operation, USAID operation in Kosovo, running the school where these kids are missing. And here's Claude Destre, who's the one who is not publishing Monica Peterson's last 100-page thesis report. So if he publishes that, and then they say, here's the JTTF program, and yes, you're right, we are trying to infiltrate the CIA, then I'll accept his apology. So again, it's going to be DynCorp again. DynCorp in Kosovo, DynCorp in Afghanistan, DynCorp pretty much everywhere with the trafficking. So I think it's just one logical extension. Now here I'm going to make a quick, a viewer sent in this map. And it's called an entity map or whatever, but basically mapping out the Clinton Global Initiative and saying, okay, here's Hillary and the people she's compared to, and then Bill and so forth. And these maps are great. And I think the way to look at this, people ask me about CGI, is the old Clinton Foundation goes all the way back to Arkansas with Lindsay, Bruce Lindsay, and Doug Band with Bill, and then CGI really was Hillary and Chelsea. So I think you have to look at it as like the old Clinton Foundation versus the new CGI, and these are where you're going to get the Bravermans and Browns. They upgraded. Their idea was we're going to upgrade to Ivy League at every point along the way. So the way I would do this slide is I would put CF over here. I'd put Bill, CF, and then the countries over here. Then I'd put Hillary, Chelsea over here, CGI, and then the countries. So if, for instance, Hillary down to Haiti, then Haiti to USAID, then USAID would go to DynCorp, and then you could go to the amount, which is the 50 million. But eventually, if you go through this process of kind of functional decomposition, we used to call it in programming, if you go through this process, you're going to add up all these numbers, and you'll come up, this is a $50 million a year contract that DynCorp has to police in Haiti. You'll add it up, and you'll come up with the missing $7.1 billion. Okay? So I'm going to end there because I'm going along, and I'll send out another one later today.